ends in your physical death, so you don't have to experience these pains anymore. But when your body keeps bouncing back in resilience and trying to live and trying to beat it and trying to become better, you see that you might become these people that you look up to in another sense. Like if you were younger and there was a hero you looked up to then, and then I see myself as, you know what, I might be a hero for somebody else. And maybe that one person that may or may not even exist, I need to be strong for. And in me keeping pushing myself forward and being celibate even though I'm not so desirable, being celibate even though it's not proactive, just being still enough to hear the voice and to know where the pain is coming from and trying to document it in some way, talking to you in this podcast in some way, trying to be, more professional, letting you know that I'm going to contact a therapist or a psychiatrist and I'm going to talk to them about my issues. Trying to take some type of step forward, even if it pushes me 30 steps back in another department, so to speak. What I'm asking is for you to be who you are so that I can go on. The brain and the mind are two different things. The mind is there to possess your career. Your career is what you do that doesn't make it feel like work. What you want is to have a type of mind that doesn't make thinking feel like work. You don't want to be able to think and it feels like work. You want to be able to think because it's interesting. It's like pursuing your dreams. You want the job that doesn't feel like work. You want the kind of mind that makes thinking feel like the best thing in the world. But the problem is your brain is your resistance. Brain will resist. The more you build up in thought, the more the brain resists. The more it compacts as a muscle into itself. And if you get too strong, you create monster proteins, you create things that can sicken you, you create things that can propel you, but it's a shot in the dark. You don't know if you're building a super protein or a super killer. You're not going to know until your body starts attacking itself. But what you can do in the meantime is if you learn how to die within your resistance, if you learn how to soften that resistance or die in certain aspects of life, your mind can take over places where resistance isn't as cowardly, isn't as driven in the profession of the body surfacing as in the intellectual and the spirit's resilience to thought as something it wants to do involuntarily, not something it's doing because the present is acquiring it as a property, as a materiality. You understand what I'm saying? It's hard at first, but I've died in so many places. And now that I know that that's what I'm supposed to be doing, and to a certain extent, I flatten, and then I can see the horizon a little bit clearer, even though, I'm supposed to be more in my plank. But in my absence of that, I know not to chase the horizon. So in this stillness, I'm learning how to see things around me and to listen more in the quiet. I'm the catastrophe in the think tank. Catastrophe in my think tank. What Dr. West was talking about was you don't know you're in your Paidea till catastrophe visits you. Like, for Black people in Africa, catastrophe visited them. For the Jewish people in Europe, catastrophe visited them. For the Native Americans that were here in the America before it was visited by Columbus, the catastrophe visited them. And if I had to put a name or a position to the catastrophe that visited me, it would have to be freedom. It would have to be freedom. It was air on a very fragile wine bottle that spilt the wine before its time. Freedom was a catastrophe that I was not ready for. And I can tell by the situation in the walls I've built around myself in my own mind that freedom was my catastrophe. But it's not it's not the end of me though. If I have to live my life with a crutch on my freedom, with some type of support system so that my freedom doesn't have a spaz in the middle of the street or some type of calamity attached to it, then, I will have to accept that type of an impairment on something that comes so easily to so many others. The catastrophe that visited me was me being able to make my own choices. Very, very cowardly mind. Somebody very absent in my leadership role as a black woman. I was very absent. I'm still kind of absent now, but I say kind of because I have some type of, I've died a couple of times there. So I have some type of a corpse vowing for attention, some type of stench pulling your attention away from your fruits and your vegetables and your Netflix and chills and things like that. I have a sword protruding from my sternum and it's ripe with the stew of pigs, I would say. Slices right through and two. I cannot deny its power. I am, what would I say? And my black woman. My high school, I was already running from the hood as it was. Not running from a physical fight, but running to be the best version of myself I thought I was being. I thought as long as I wasn't listening at home. That's when my black woman failed. I wasn't listening at home. I was hiding behind my success, which you can do if nobody knows you're doing it. If you're not caught and you're not hurting anyone, what's the idea? But at the same time, you have to be present for something. You have to be putting hands on something. You have to be able to steal. You have to be able to steal something. You come from a sperm bed that stole the egg from all its brothers and sisters. You have to be able to steal something. When you stole then, why can't you steal now? And trying to be, it's easy for me to fake and to be the person I've created in my head, as long as no one's around me pushing me in a different direction. If I'm on my own, if I'm the captain of my own team, I'm setting the narrative. So I can always hide in my room and listen to PM Dawn till I pass out. Even if the hood requires us to listen to Biggie Smalls that day, I don't have to listen. If I can afford to have my own apartment and stay in my room and listen to PM Dawn, does it matter that I didn't listen to Biggie? It won't matter. Because if I come outside and they're all partying to Biggie, all I got to do is bop to the beat and keep my mouth closed and act like I agree, and that's just as good. But when someone else who listens to it is in control of the apartment you're staying in, at some point you're going to have to answer to the authority on the inside. And that's where I went wrong. It's that person in first place that's the cover, the helpmeet, the piecemeal of the entire body, which is the after effect of your actions, the post beat of your heart. In the attack, your heart is up front. But as soon as you finish and you retreat back, it's that essence you leave in its wake that defends and describes who you are to everyone. It's your whiff, your after effect. When you walk past a human being, it's the smell that trails you, that explains who you are and where you've been. You can't hide from that. And I've hid from that for a long time. Being able to pass another human being without error, without flinch, it's very hard to do. If you are very ineffective in learning how to die in certain situations, especially if the powers that be, if you don't want to get smashed to death over something stupid, you have to learn how to cower sometimes. You have to learn how to die. You have to learn how to shift in your standing. So it's almost like you're laying on a bed, but you're really standing on your own 2 feet. I don't know. I didn't even know what dogma meant. I had to go look it up. I was like, what does dogma mean? But It's the underbelly. It is. You have to have an underbelly. Within, you have to have one. You cannot have one. Every creed of human on this planet, every nation or race of human has an underbelly. You are of no exception. I have to learn how to fail better. I have to learn how to fail where I take everything I've earned with me, and then we peak at another point. It's like a clock, almost. Like, I can't be at 12 all the time. I'll kill my legs. I'll kill my knees and my ankles. I have to learn how to get to 6 without going all the way through the 1, the 2, the 3, and the 4. I have to learn how to drop down from a 12 to a 6. That's when you know how to die. When you can peak at 12 and that exact same peak you can do at 6. You can do it at 3, and then you can go the opposite and do it at 9. You go from 11, you do the opposite, and you hit it at 5. I mean, that's what you want to know how to do. That is knowing the value of your work, knowing the value, knowing who you are, and in every facet. Because sometimes who you are at 12 or who you are at the peak of your performance, at the peak of my performance, I am an awesome poet. But when I implode down to 6, I am a nasty slut. But every description in that behavior is a poet. She does it very poetically. Just like when I'm writing poems, I do that very sluttishly. So I have to take each characteristic, I have to know it inside and out. And each part is just a reflection of myself in another aspect. Like I'm a driver. I'm a very attentive driver. That might be me at a 3. But me at a 9, I'm a very intrinsic listener of music and rhythms. Is my driving just another rhythm? And then turning things inside out. I think in learning to die, you know how to turn yourself inside out and expose who you are. And again, that brings me back to about like 15 years ago when I was talking to myself. And I used to do it in my room before I was recording myself. I used to say things like, you know how your nerve endings look like the trees outside in winter? And then I wrote the bare branches and stuff. And then I wrote this poem called Bridal Pimp. It was about a description of the human mouth and how your lips are like January, December. They're like the winter of the year. And then your gums and your teeth, the top part would be spring. And then the bottom of your, your bottom jaw, the gums and the teeth are like fall. And then everything in the middle is summer. Like your tongue into your stomach, your digestive system, all that. And I said the whole thing should be called 1 year. And then I broke it into the Bible and I said, yeah, and it's like the power of life and death is in the tongue, which is the hottest point of the year. And then I, talk about this, that, and the third. I went completely into it. I actually used it to describe a John Keats poem called Ode to a Grecian Urn. I mean, I went in on it. But it's the same exact thing. Learning how to die means learning how to turn yourself inside out, being your own coroner. Knowing how to, go into the world, take the thing or say the thing or be the thing that causes your life or your death. And if it does kill you, being your own coroner, turning yourself inside out, literally sewing it up and then representing yourself to life as this corpse that rose from the grave or a corpse undiscovered. You know what I mean? A lot of us are just corpses walking around. It's just nobody knows it. I think that's the best way to be sometimes. We all have to have our secrets. Like Beyonce and her mom, Miss Tina, knows what to say. Can't tell them everything. You gotta have a little mystery about yourself. Joy is deeper than pleasure. That is true. Joy is the ultimation of loving yourself. Finding, dying, being your bridal pimp, and presenting yourself as the best bride you are, with that tongue deciding your fate or your future, and then finding your fate in your words. That you notice that in your involuntary, you're very fateful. You're quick to lunge at death and to lunge at life. You don't mean to, you just do. You just land at that 50-50, and then the hood introduces you to a coroner, and then they'll chase you till either they kill you or you learn how to kill yourself. You go within, you turn yourself inside out. Your insides are all out on display. You're looking for things. Oh,